You know what's worse than breaking your hip at 72? Breaking your hip and discovering that the people you'd die for wouldn't even pick up a gallon of milk for you. I learned that lesson in the most humiliating way possible. Standing in my kitchen, phone in hand, tears burning behind my eyes, while my daughter-in-law's laughter still echoed in my ears. "Order Instacart, old woman." Those 4 words changed everything. But here's what she didn't know. This old woman still had her wits about her. And sometimes the quietest people make the loudest statements. My name is Elena Hartley, and this is the story of how I went from being a doormat to drawing a line so clear, so definitive, that it redefined every relationship in my family. This isn't a tale of petty revenge. It's about self-respect, boundaries, and what happens when kindness is mistaken for weakness one too many times. Let me take you back to where it all began. It was a Tuesday morning in March when my life literally came crashing down. I was reaching for my gardening gloves on the top shelf of my garage. Those same gloves I'd used for 30 years to tend the rose garden my late husband had planted for me. My foot caught on a bag of potting soil I'd left on the floor the night before. The fall happened in slow motion and all at once. I felt my body twist, heard the crack before I felt the pain, and then I was on the cold concrete floor, my hips screaming in agony that took my breath away. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, found me 20 minutes later. She'd heard my cries and climbed over the fence, something I never thought I'd see a 70-year-old woman do. The ambulance, the hospital, the surgery, it all blurred together in a haze of pain medication and fluorescent lights. Hip replacement surgery, 6 to 8 weeks of recovery, no driving, limited mobility, complete dependence on others for basic tasks. The doctor's words hung over me like a sentence. I'd been independent my entire life. Even after my husband Thomas passed away 5 years ago, I'd managed everything myself. My house, my garden, my life. I handled it all with pride. Now I couldn't even walk to my own mailbox. I have one son, just one. Michael is 43, works in corporate finance, and married Jessica 8 years ago. Let me be clear about something right from the start. I tried with Jessica. God knows I tried. When Michael first brought her home, I welcomed her with open arms. I threw them an engagement party, helped plan the wedding, even contributed financially when they were buying their first home. I wasn't trying to buy her love. I was trying to show her she was family now, but Jessica had a way of making me feel like an outsider in my own son's life. Little comments here and there. "Oh, Michael, your mom still cooks with butter? We use avocado oil now." Or, "It's so quaint that your mother still sends Christmas cards. Everything's digital now, Elena." Quaint. That was her favorite word for everything I did. I bit my tongue through years of subtle digs. Michael loved her, and I loved Michael, so I smiled and nodded and kept my mouth shut. When they had problems, I listened. When they needed money for a down payment on a bigger house, I helped. When Jessica's car broke down, I co-signed for her new one. I wasn't keeping score. That's not who I am. Family helps family. That's what Thomas always said, and I believed it with every fiber of my being. After my surgery, when the hospital asked who my emergency contact was, I gave them Michael's number without hesitation. He was my son, my only child, my family. Of course he'd be there for me, and he was, for the first 3 days. I came home from the hospital on a Friday afternoon. Michael took off work and helped me get settled. He'd set up a temporary bedroom in my downstairs den so I wouldn't have to navigate the stairs. He'd arranged my medications, brought in a walker, and made sure I had everything within reach. "Mom, I'm going to come by every day after work," he promised, his hand on my shoulder. Jessica said she'd help out too. "We're going to take care of you." I felt tears of gratitude well up. "You don't have to do that, sweetheart. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden, Mom. You're my mother. You were there for me my entire life. Now it's my turn." Those words sustained me through the first few difficult days of recovery. The pain was manageable with medication, but the helplessness was harder to swallow. I couldn't shower properly. I couldn't cook. I couldn't clean. Every simple task had become a challenge. Michael did come by that first week, but each visit grew shorter. Monday, he stayed for an hour. Tuesday, 45 minutes. By Wednesday, he was in and out in 20 minutes, always checking his phone, always distracted. "Work's crazy right now, Mom," he'd say, already halfway out the door. "Big project deadline. Jessica will swing by tomorrow, okay?" Jessica never came that first week, or the second. By the third week, I was rationing my food because getting to the grocery store was impossible, and I didn't want to keep bothering Michael. I'd been living on canned soup and crackers, stretching out the provisions that were supposed to last a few days. That's when I finally made the call that would change everything. It was a Thursday evening, around 6 o'clock. I'd spent 10 minutes just working up the courage to dial Michael's number, my stomach churning with guilt for needing help. "Hey, Mom," he answered, and I could hear the sounds of a restaurant in the background, clinking glasses, laughter, music. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you're busy, but I've run out of groceries and I was wondering—" "Mom, can you hold on a second?" The phone muffled, and I heard him talking to someone. When he came back, he sounded distracted. "Sorry, what were you saying?" "I just need some groceries. Some basics. Milk, bread, eggs, maybe some fresh vegetables. I can make you a list." "Oh man, Mom, we're actually out at dinner right now. It's our anniversary, remember?" I didn't remember. The pain medication made my days blur together. "Of course. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. Congratulations, sweetheart. Never mind, this can wait. Hold on, let me ask Jess." The phone muffled again, and I waited, my heart sinking. When the phone came back, it wasn't Michael's voice I heard. It was Jessica's. "Elena?" Her tone was already laced with irritation. "Michael says you need groceries?" "I'm sorry to interrupt your anniversary dinner, Jessica. It's not urgent. I can—" "We're at Le Bernardin, Elena. Do you know how hard it is to get a reservation here?" Le Bernardin. That was a $200 per person restaurant in the city, an hour away from my house. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had money for an expensive dinner but couldn't spare an hour to help me. "I understand. I'm sorry. I'll figure something out." "Just order Instacart, old woman." She said it like it was the most obvious solution in the world, her voice dripping with condescension. Then she laughed, this light, dismissive laugh that made my blood run cold. "It's 2025. Everything delivers now. We can't drop everything every time you need something." In the background, I heard Michael say something, and Jessica responded away from the phone. "Your mother wants us to leave our anniversary dinner to buy her groceries. I told her to use Instacart." More muffled conversation, and then Michael was back on the line. "Mom, Jess is right. Just use one of those delivery services. It's super easy. I'll text you the app to download. We'll come by this weekend, okay? Love you." The line went dead. I sat there in my chair, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling something crack inside me that had nothing to do with my broken hip. Old woman. Every time I'd helped them, every dollar I'd given, every boundary I'd let them cross, it all came flooding back. And in that moment, I saw clearly what I'd been refusing to see for years. I wasn't family to Jessica. I was an inconvenience. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in my makeshift bedroom, staring at the ceiling, and let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. I'd raised Michael to be kind, to be generous, to take care of family. Where had I gone wrong? Or had I gone wrong at all? Maybe I'd done my job too well, made him so comfortable, so secure in my unconditional love, that he forgot it needed to be reciprocated. But it wasn't really Michael I was angry with, if I'm being honest. It was Jessica. And more than that, it was myself, for allowing her to treat me this way for so long. The next morning, I did order Instacart. I downloaded the app with shaking fingers, navigated the confusing interface, and placed an order for basic groceries. The delivery fee was almost $20. The markup on the groceries was absurd, and I had to tip the driver. For items that would have cost me $40 at the store, I paid $93. But the groceries came, And as I put them away, moving slowly with my walker, something crystallized in my mind. I needed to see exactly how deep this went. Over the next few days, I started paying attention, really paying attention. I began reviewing my credit card statements, my bank accounts, everything. What I found made my stomach turn. Jessica had been using my credit card for years. I'd added her as an authorized user 5 years ago, right after their wedding, when they were struggling with debt and needed to build credit. "It'll just be for emergencies, Elena," she'd promised, "just until we get on our feet." But as I scrolled through the statements, I saw the truth. Designer handbags, luxury skincare, expensive restaurants, weekend trips, that gym membership at the exclusive club downtown, $400 a month, premium yoga classes, spa treatments, thousands upon thousands of dollars every month for years. I calculated it out. Over the past 5 years, Jessica had charged approximately $240,000 to my credit card, nearly $250,000. My hands trembled as the number stared back at me from my calculator. That was money I'd saved, money Thomas and I had put away for retirement, money I'd planned to leave for Michael's future, and she'd spent it on luxuries while calling me an old woman for asking for help with basic groceries. I thought about calling Michael right then, but something stopped me. If I called him, he'd make excuses for her. He'd say I'd offered, that I'd never complained before, that I should have said something if it bothered me. He'd be right about that last part. I should have said something. I should have set boundaries years ago, but it wasn't too late to set them now. The plan came to me fully formed, like it had been waiting in the back of my mind all along. I would show them both exactly what my support meant, by removing it completely. I called my bank on a Monday morning. The representative was sympathetic and efficient. "I'd like to remove an authorized user from my credit card and cancel the card," I said, my voice steady. "Of course, Mrs. Hartley. May I ask the reason?" "Fraud prevention," I replied. It wasn't entirely untrue. Within 10 minutes, it was done. The credit card that Jessica had been using like her personal ATM for 5 years was canceled. Any charges she tried to make would be declined immediately. But I didn't tell them. That was the crucial part. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't give any warning. If they'd been checking on me, if Michael had come by or called, I might have mentioned it. But they didn't. 2 weeks after my surgery, and I'd heard from them exactly once, that anniversary dinner phone call. So I waited. It took 3 days for the card to decline. 3 whole days. Jessica must have been on a spending spree because when it finally happened, it happened spectacularly. I wasn't there to witness it, of course. But Michael's phone call painted a vivid picture. It was Saturday evening around 9 o'clock. My phone rang and Michael's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Mom!" His voice was strained, urgent. "Mom, something's wrong with your credit card." "Oh?" I kept my voice calm, almost disinterested. "What do you mean?" "Jessica's card, the one linked to your account. It got declined at dinner tonight. We're at this restaurant with my boss and his wife, and the card just declined. It was so embarrassing, Mom. Can you call the bank? Maybe there's a fraud alert or something?" I took a slow breath. This was the moment. "There's no fraud alert, Michael." "Then what's wrong with it? Can you check your account?" I canceled it. Silence. Long, heavy silence. "You... what?" "I canceled the credit card last Monday." "But Mom, why would you do that? Jessica uses that card. Why didn't you tell us?" This was it, the line in the sand. "Why didn't I tell you? Michael, honey, when's the last time you asked me how I was doing?" "Mom, this isn't the time." "When's the last time you came to check on me? I'm recovering from major surgery and you've seen me once in 3 weeks." "I've been busy, Mom, you know that. Work has been..." "Busy enough for Le Burner down on your anniversary. Busy enough for dinner with your boss tonight, apparently, but not busy enough to make sure your mother has food in her house." I could hear him breathing, hear the fumbling with the phone. Then Jessica's voice, sharp and angry. "Elena, did you seriously cancel the credit card without telling us?" "Yes, Jessica, I did." Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to have my card declined in front of Michael's boss? What were you thinking? Something in me snapped. What was I thinking? I was thinking about how my daughter-in-law called me an old woman when I asked for help getting groceries. I was thinking about how I've spent nearly $250,000 on you over 5 years, while you couldn't spare an hour to help me when I needed it most. That's not... We were going to help you. You were going to help me. When, Jessica? After you finished spending my retirement fund on designer bags and spa treatments. I can't believe this. Her voice was shaking now, whether from anger or shock, I couldn't tell. You're punishing us because we couldn't drop everything. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply stopping what should have stopped years ago. You're a grown woman with a job, Jessica. It's time you paid for your own luxuries. Michael got back on the phone. Mom, please, we can talk about this later. But right now, I'm standing outside the restaurant, and I need to pay the bill. Can you just... No. The word came out firm, final. I can't. Use your own credit card, Michael. This is insane. Jessica's voice came through, distant but shrill. You're doing this because we couldn't bring you groceries one time? One time? I laughed, and it surprised me how bitter it sounded. Jessica, you never came. Not once. Not in 3 weeks. But you know what? I'm not even angry about the groceries anymore. I'm angry about the years I spent bending over backwards for you, only to be treated like a burden the moment I needed something in return. I hung up before either of them could respond. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But underneath the adrenaline, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Powerful. The calls started immediately. First Michael, then Jessica, then both of them together. I let them all go to voicemail. Michael's messages started apologetic. Mom, I'm sorry, you're right. We should have been there more. Can we please talk about this? But by the third message, Jessica's influence was clear. Mom, you're being unreasonable. We get it, you're upset. But canceling the card without warning was a low blow. That's not how family treats each other. That line, that's not how family treats each other, almost made me call back. Almost. But I remembered sitting alone in my house, rationing canned soup, and the anger returned. The next day, they showed up at my door. I saw Michael's car pull into the driveway through my front window. My first instinct was to hide, to pretend I wasn't home. But I'd come this far. I wasn't backing down now. I made my way to the door with my walker, taking my time. By the time I opened it, they'd rung the bell 3 times. Michael stood on my porch looking exhausted, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled. Jessica stood behind him, her arms crossed, her face a mask of barely contained fury. Can we come in? Michael asked quietly. I stepped back and let them enter, saying nothing. We settled in my living room, me in my chair, them on the couch. The same couch where I used to read to Michael when he was little, where Thomas and I had our morning coffee together for 30 years. It felt wrong having this confrontation here. Michael spoke first. Mom, I owe you an apology. We both do. He glanced at Jessica, who stared at the floor. We should have been there for you after your surgery. You're right about that. Thank you, I said simply. But Mom, canceling the card like that, it was vindictive. You embarrassed us in front of important people. There were better ways to handle this. Was there? I met his eyes steadily. How many times did I mention needing help? How many times did I bite my tongue when Jessica made comments about my age, my cooking, my lifestyle? How many times did I let things slide because I didn't want to rock the boat? Jessica finally looked up. I never meant those comments the way you took them, Elena. I was just what? Just being honest? Just being yourself? I shook my head. You called me an old woman, Jessica, to my face, while I was asking for help after major surgery. I didn't mean I was stressed, we were out, it just came out. But it did come out, and that means somewhere, on some level, that's how you see me. Silence fell over the room. Michael ran his hands through his hair, that nervous gesture he'd had since childhood. What do you want from us, Mom? he finally asked. It was a fair question. I'd thought about it a lot over the past few days. I want respect, I said quietly. I want to be treated like a person, not an ATM machine or a babysitter or someone who exists only to serve your needs. I want my son back, the one who used to call just to check in, who remembered that I existed even when he didn't need something from me. Michael's eyes glistened. I'm still that person, Mom. Are you? I asked gently. Because that person would have noticed that I was struggling. That person would have made time, no matter how busy work was. That's not fair, Jessica interjected. You have no idea how demanding Michael's job is, how much pressure he's under. And you have no idea what it's like to be 72, alone, and unable to take care of yourself, I shot back. I'm not asking for your pity, Jessica. I'm asking for basic human decency. She opened her mouth, closed it, then stood up abruptly. I can't do this. This is crazy. Michael, I'll be in the car. She walked out, the door closing firmly behind her. Michael and I sat in silence for a long moment. She's not a bad person, Mom, he finally said. I never said she was. But she's not kind to me, Michael, and you've let that slide because it was easier than dealing with it. His face crumpled slightly. You're right. I have. I didn't want to be caught in the middle. You're not in the middle, sweetheart. You're my son. That's not the middle. That's a side, and it's okay to be on my side sometimes. He nodded slowly, tears tracking down his cheeks. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I made you feel like you didn't matter. I love you too, so much. That's why this hurt as badly as it did. We talked for another hour after that. Really talked. The way we used to before Jessica, before his demanding job, before life got so complicated. He told me about the pressure at work, about his fears of not being successful enough, about how Jessica's spending had spiraled, but he'd been too embarrassed to address it. I told him about the loneliness after his father died, about how proud I was of him despite everything, about how frightening it was to be dependent on others. By the time he left, we hadn't solved everything, but we'd made a start. The weeks that followed were difficult. Jessica refused to speak to me. Michael came by more often, twice a week instead of once a month, but the visits were tinged with awkwardness. He brought groceries, helped with household tasks, but we danced around the elephant in the room. I didn't reopen the credit card. That was non-negotiable. But I did help them in other ways, smaller ways that felt like mutual support rather than being taken advantage of. When Michael's car broke down, I lent him mine for a week. When they had a genuine emergency, their basement flooded, I helped with the repair costs. But I made sure these were conscious choices, not defaults. And most importantly, I made sure they asked rather than assuming. Slowly, imperceptibly, the dynamic shifted. Jessica started being more polite. Not warm, not friendly, but no longer dismissive. She'd say thank you when I helped with something. She stopped making comments about my age or my lifestyle. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly. It was more like a ceasefire. Michael, for his part, became more attentive. He called twice a week just to chat. He started remembering my doctor's appointments. Small things, but they mattered. 3 months after the canceled card incident, Jessica did something that shocked me. She apologized. It wasn't a grand gesture. We were at Michael's house for Sunday dinner, something I'd instituted as a weekly tradition, and Jessica and I ended up alone in the kitchen while Michael took a work call. Elena, she said, not looking at me as she chopped vegetables. I wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you. I stopped washing the dishes and turned to look at her. She continued, her voice quiet. I didn't realize how much we were taking advantage of you until you cut us off. And the old woman comment, she finally met my eyes. That was cruel. I was annoyed and stressed, but that's not an excuse. You deserved better. I studied her face, looking for signs of insincerity. But all I saw was a woman who looked tired and maybe, just maybe, a little ashamed. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot. She nodded and went back to chopping. We worked in silence for a moment, then she added, "For what it's worth, Michael and I have been in counseling, working on a lot of stuff. Money management, boundaries, communication. It's been enlightening." "That's good," I said. "Really good." And I meant it. I'm writing this now, 6 months after the incident, fully recovered from my hip surgery. My garden is blooming again. Those roses Thomas planted are more beautiful than ever. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. Not the canceled card, not the confrontation, not any of it. Because here's what I learned. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's enabling. For years, I thought being a good mother meant always saying yes, always being available, always putting my son's needs above my own. But that's not what I taught him. What I taught him was that his needs mattered more than mine, that I didn't deserve reciprocity, that he could take without giving, and I'd just keep smiling. That's not love. That's martyrdom. And martyrdom doesn't create healthy relationships. It creates resentment on both sides. When I canceled that credit card, I wasn't being petty or vindictive. I was finally, after 72 years, advocating for myself. I was saying, I matter too. My needs are valid. My feelings are important. And the surprising thing? Once I started valuing myself, others started valuing me too. Michael and I are closer now than we've been in years, not because I'm giving him money or doing things for him, but because we have a real relationship based on mutual respect. He knows I'll help when he truly needs it, and I know he'll be there for me. Jessica and I will never be best friends. That ship sailed long ago, but we've reached an understanding. She knows where the boundaries are now, and she respects them. Most of the time, anyway. The incident taught me something else, too. It's never too late to change the dynamic. I spent years thinking I was stuck with the family dynamic we'd created, that changing it would cause irreparable damage. But the damage was already being done, slowly, invisibly, with every time I swallowed my hurt and pretended everything was fine. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, no. Sometimes standing up for yourself is the only way to save a relationship that's drowning in resentment and one-sided sacrifice. My hip has healed. The scar is still there, a thin line on my upper thigh that I see every morning when I get dressed. It reminds me of how fragile we all are, how quickly everything can change, how much we need each other. But it also reminds me of something else, that I survived, that I got back up, literally and figuratively, that I found my strength when I needed it most. I'm Elena Hartley. I'm 72 years old. I'm a widow, a mother, a gardener, and a woman who finally learned to stand up for herself. And I'm no longer anyone's old woman. I'm just Elena, and that's enough. The credit card is still canceled, by the way. Jessica got her own. Michael pays for his own expenses. And when they take me out to dinner now, which they do regularly, Michael always insists on paying. Last week, I fell again. Nothing serious, just lost my balance in the garden. But this time, when I called Michael, he answered on the first. Ring. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, honey, just a little fall. But could you maybe come by after work? I'd feel better if you checked on me." "I'm leaving the office right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He was there in 15. Jessica came too. She helped me inside, made me tea, and stayed until she was sure I was all right. It's not perfect. We're not a Hallmark movie family. We still have our tensions and our difficult moments, but we're real, and we're trying. And that's more than I could have said 6 months ago. Sometimes the best thing you can do for the people you love is teach them how to love you back, even if the lesson is painful. Even if it costs you something, especially then. Because love without respect isn't love at all. It's just habitual kindness. And habitual kindness, I've learned, can hurt just as much as cruelty. It just takes longer to show the bruises. So here's my advice. To anyone who's listening, set your boundaries. Know your worth. Don't wait until you're flat on your back with a broken hip to realize that you deserve better. Stand up for yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if you're 72 years old and scared of losing the only family you have left. Stand up anyway, because you matter. Your needs are valid, and you deserve to be treated with respect, even if you have to cancel a few credit cards to prove it. This is Elena Hartley, and that's my story. Thanks for listening.